Pagurus marshi, Benedict, 1901. Family Paguridae. This medium-sized species was found at a low-density level in a number of locations. It was often difficult to see due to a rather effective camouflage. The surfaces of the shell, ambulatories, and chelipeds are covered by detritus material. The detritus on the shell is often held on and intermingled with hydrozoan or birozoan colonies. The detritus material is held on the chelipeds and ambulatories by numerous long setae. This covering was present on specimens collected in front of Carmabi at St. Martha, Versen-Baie, St. Cruis-Baie, and Boca St. Michel. It was much less marked in the case of those collected in parts of Piscadera Bay Channel and the entrance to Sponce Water, where the rocks are not covered by detritus matter. Pagurus marshi was found from about 50 centimeters depth down to 4 meters in rocky bottom, open water areas. The table below shows the results of field distribution measurements made in 2 localities. Field distributions of Pagurus marshi. A table I am not reading because I have no idea how to read it. The distributions are contagious, but statistically just barely so. In the field, the crabs often seem to be randomly distributed within the area they inhabit, perhaps as a result of their low density level. No clear diel variation in the level of behavior was seen in the field. Individuals were observed moving about and feeding early in the morning, during the day, and at night. During the evening, they seemed to be moving about and feeding somewhat less. Pagurus marshi is a slowly moving species in general, although individuals can move rapidly at times. As in other pagurid crabs, the movements of the chelipeds are more frequent in aggressive interactions than those of the ambulatories. In 1,040 interactions, 431 ambulatory raises, 490 cheliped extensions, and 263 cheliped presentations took place. The upward motion of one or both ambulatories is a rapid 0.12 seconds movement to a position just below the horizontal. Individuals of P. marshi, more readily than other species, tended to perform ambulatory raises and other aggressive movements toward individuals approaching from the side. The cheliped display repertoire of Pagurus marshi is similar to that of P. miamensis. In the presentation position, the manus of the major cheliped is perpendicular to the substratum. From this position, the crab may execute a major, minor, or double cheliped extension. The minor cheliped is raised to about 10 degrees below the horizontal. The major cheliped is raised to about 40 degrees below the horizontal. Long, aggressive impasses in which the major chelipeds of an interacting pair are pushed back and forth against one another are frequent. During the course of extended aggressive interactions, one or both crabs often began feeding motions. This appeared to be a displacement activity. The minor cheliped, the feeding appendage, would rapidly pick up sand grains, but failed to carry most of them to the mouth appendages. The major cheliped extension of marshi is often executed with considerable force, and smaller individuals may be physically thrown several times their own length by a blow. The dislodging shaking, first mentioned in Pagurus miamensis, is carried out with vigor by individuals of P. marshi. The behavior pattern includes more vertical movements, rapidly rising onto the tips of the ambulatories, than in miamensis. The shell-fighting behavior of Pagurus marshi follows the general pagurid pattern. Positioning moves the aggressor's body shell through a horizontal figure eight, which includes back and forth movement, making the eight three-dimensional. This positioning and rocking of the defender gently back and forth about the axis perpendicular to and through the plan of its aperture precedes series of spasmodic shaking or wrapping movements. The sexual behavior of Pagurus marshi also follows the general Pagurid pattern. A male crab may hold and pull a female for a number of hours, either by the rim of her shell aperture or one of her ambulatories. The male, while holding the female in the opposed position, moves his chelipeds back and forth in the aperture of the female. The sexual behavior of Pagurus marshi also follows the general Pagurid pattern. A male crab may hold and pull a female for a number of hours, either by the rim of her shell aperture or one of her ambulatories. The male, while holding the female in the opposed position, moves his chelipeds back and forth in the aperture of the female. His minor cheliped is especially active in this tapping-stroking behavior. The female comes partially up after some minutes, and the male grasps one of her appendages with one of his chelipeds. The male then pulls the female toward him in series of short, less than 1 millimeter jerking motions. After some time, the male gets the female in an opposed position, and may continue to jerk her toward him either by his grasp of one of her ambulatories, or by a movement of his ambulatories which are around her shell. In addition, he then begins tapping the outside of the rim of the aperture with his free cheliped. This light striking motion continues as the female comes up, and until she is out into the copulatory position. The male may continue to tap at shell with the major dactyl during copulation. Copulation lasted 1 to 5 seconds. Post-copulatory behavior by the male was short or absent. Females had recently molted at the time of copulation. However, the ecdysis process was not observed. Males do hold and pull about females that still have old larvae and have not molted. However, all females that have been observed to copulate were found to be soft and free of larvae. The new eggs were not in place even 2 hours after copulation. Males were 8 to 89% larger than females. In the mated pairs, average 50%. Although males mated repeatedly, females have been observed to mate only once. The variation in average egg diameter during 1 month is shown in Figure 26. The results lend little support to the idea of lunar periodicity in mating. The diel variation in activity is shown in Figure 27. Feeding activity is rather constant throughout the 24 hours. However, the decrease in locomotor activity at dusk is rather marked. Figure 26. Variation in average egg diameter in Pagurus marshi during May, 1963. Figure 27. Diel variation in activities of Pagurus marshi. Feeding level rather constant. Aggressive and locomotor activity shows morning peak and evening low point.